here. There are no 100s. Oh well, let's go look and just see what the 99s are. And I have two 99s in this dummy data. Any issues with the data, just I'm going to take full credit for, because this is my dummy data. But I might see here that we have hypoglycemia. So interesting. So in theory, a different case would not impact the score, but it has here. So even though we have a 100% match with hypoglycemia, and it's not is it the spelling? It's the, okay, spelling. Okay, got it. It's a thing here. And then we have another one that's pretty close. So the algorithm did determine that this was a direct match to a lower level term. That went to the preferred term. So we didn't give those a 100, but they're pretty close. So I think as a reviewer, I would feel that this is very well coded data. Does anyone disagree or have any questions on that point? Okay. So then what I might do is I might be kind of, as a reviewer, I might be kind of disappointed going, oh man, I can only eliminate 2 out of 1,646 rows to go. I might want to look at all of these and just see what my zeros look like. And weak and shaky hypoglycemic episode, and it was coded to asthenia. A lot of shaky, sweaty, and I think, like I saw with the other hypoglycemic data, there seems to be indications of a hypoglycemic response of some level. I mean, enough that it makes enough of a clinical presentation that it is being reported, but I don't see these uniformly coded to a preferred term. And so the more I look at these, so even though we just looked at a subset for the snapshot, as I look deeper into this, I'm a little concerned that that the ability of this data to support a specific hypoglycemic event analysis would be very poor. And if this were data supporting an application for a new diabetes drug, I would really have concerns about about my ability to analyze this data without doing a lot of ad hoc coding to normalize this. Does anyone want to look at anything else on this? Any other questions, signals? Yes?
Sorry, it's me again. Can you add other terms into that? For example, it would be interesting to see site, wouldn't it? To see whether a site was particularly...
We could, and see how they go up under a SOC, but that's more of a signal investigation than just a straight coding evaluation. Right. And I feel that kind of muddies that here if you have to do that. But I think other reviewers have asked that same question, so you're good, you're thinking like a reviewer. And maybe we'll put it in at some point, but it doesn't really help the coding determination here.
Thank you.
We have another question here at this table.
So you've got, for instance, hypoglycemia dash shaky sweaty twice in there. Once is hyperhidrosis and the other is tremor. That looks like a split term to me, right? They coded hypoglycemia, they coded shaky sweaty.
Yeah.
But what you don't have up here is the modified term.
Yeah, we don't. So that might help define whether or not that was data was well coded or not. Believe it or not, we don't get a lot of population in that modify variable. So to John's point, what he's talking about is in the AE domain and SDTM, there is a variable for modify where it captures the root from the verbatim to how it's coded in decode, and which is a great idea. Just as an agency, I don't know if PIMDA is different, but we don't get a lot of populated columns there. I'm sure, John, you populate yours assiduously, but not, cumulatively not so much. You had a question as well?
Hello?
She was first, sorry. We
I
have a
just-
report for that, yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that you've got a tab called Dupes and I
Yeah.
was wondering what that was about.
So we do look, so without looking at every variable within the adverse event, we look at the unique key for that and see, including the results and the units, and look and see for potential duplicates. I say potential because until you really look at the underlying data and some other things, you can't rule that out just based on a core DF report. We're not reviewers, we're only reporting on the data, but that's what that report is about. And we're gonna look at that a little bit later, if you can wait.
So that would be based on the key variables.
Yes. And when you see the report, we'll list out exactly the variables that have identified potential duplicates. And we do that for a number of different domains: labs, adverse events, I think disposition, maybe medical history, and so on. So you had a question.
Right. Hello? Yeah, so this is a result directly from Jumpstart, running Jumpstart service, right? So the question is that FDA has contributed like 7 sets of script to standard analysis and code sharing, and we have reviewed this set of scripts 2 times. I think it's 2016. So those scripts are in the repository right now. So I just want to know how big is the gap between those set of script and the script that you run to get this kind of a result.
That's a good question. You're not thinking like a reviewer, but so thanks for playing along. But I'm not exactly sure. I think they're fairly well harmonized. I know our core DF reports are a little more agile than obviously those scripts. Those scripts are a snapshot in time of our best thinking and our at the time. So Crystal, you look like you have something more to add about that, please.
Yeah, so, okay. This core DF set of reports are an export from a tool that we use for data validation. They're slightly different from the scripts. So the Jumpstart service actually uses a number of different tools, and Alan's going to share some of them with you. There's our data validation tool from which these come. There are those scripts. There are other data analysis tools. There's also MAID, and one of the major benefits to a Jumpstart service is some of the manual work that a Jumpstart analyst does to investigate the findings discovered by a tool, right? And so in some cases, that's the gap between automating a report and providing a Jumpstart service. It's the level of support that a reviewer might need. So a script will get you to an automated analysis. These will get you to automated data quality information. The interpretation of that, or the ability to investigate those findings, really comes from a Jumpstart analyst. Does that help answer the question?
Yes. So the second question is, are you continue to share
Is this a reviewer question, or are you grilling us? Because if you're going to grill us, we'll ask you. I'm going to ask you to wait to the question part at the end. We're trying to get into this, be a reviewer thing.
Quickly though,
Okay.
we do intend to continue sharing the scripts. We can't share the tools.
Okay, good. Understand. Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Thank you. So do we have any?
Yeah, I have one
Okay.
How much of weightage does the automated tools play into reviewing data quality? And how much are you making a call after reviewing the entire data?
Are you asking me as a member of OCS?
Yes.
We do not participate in any regulatory decisions at all. We provide reports and deeper dives and results of analyses, but we're not reviewers. We're not on the review team, and certainly we give opinions, but we do not participate in regulatory decisions. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right. Okay. So let's go back to our. So close. This one? This was it? No, it's this one. Okay, so let's go on to another report. So supplemental data sets. So you guys all know about what a supplemental data set is, I'm sure. So, but we get a lot of them, and they're not predictable, right? Because they're very sponsor defined and sponsor populated and sponsor and even the variables in them can be sponsor defined. So we can't always do a lot with them from a canned report or analysis kind of way, but very often primary, secondary endpoints and predictors or determinants of safety and efficacy are in supplemental data sets. And what we've heard historically from reviewers like yourselves is that they don't often look at supplemental data sets because they're these tall, skinny things and they don't know, and they're what's in there anyway, because you guys put a lot of stuff. I'm talking to you as your sponsors now. You guys put a lot of stuff in your supplemental data sets, so it's kind of like cleaning out the garage a little bit. So we're trying to make that more accessible to a reviewer by creating a report that inventories the contents of all the supplemental data sets for a particular study. So that is what this report looks like. This is just, I filtered down on something that for me, if I were a reviewer, that would be of interest to me, and that I noticed that in your SUP-EG data set, which is your electrocardiogram stuff, is that it looks like there was some infarction stuff going on, which is always kind of a key safety concern, possibly even an efficacy concern. And 50 is a lot. Like if it were 5, I think, maybe, but 50 is enough that I'm going to go, what's going on with that, and start to look at the data. So does anyone have any questions about this report? Is anyone else interested in this as well? Let's see what my question was. Yes, wouldn't you want to know more about these 50? I would. Is this one person that's just having a really, really bad week, or is this 50 different people? I don't know that from this report, so I'd have to go into the data. So let's go. And so here's your question. Wouldn't you want to know more about these, right? You're reviewers now. So let's go and see what we got here. So close here. This way. You know, yes. So now I'm going to go this way. Yes, wouldn't you want to know more about these 50? So answer. And while you guys are answering, for those of you who maybe are, playing the reviewer game, do you have any questions about about the report or about the underlying data? No, maybe. I really like the ones who are just putting it out there. No, right? You guys are either really seasoned or really jaded. Or your fingers are just, or that the app is really small and the buttons, and you're like, meant to do it, yes. Maybe, yeah.
So
yeah.
My question here is, so what are the other inferences you would have seeing the report, apart from the code mismatches, the code and the term mismatches? Would you also drill down to go see whether it's coming from a different country or from a site? Would you have that perspective as well?
I mean, I guess a reviewer could do that, and that's why you would go to the adverse event domain, and then you would go to the DM domain to do sites. You'd figure out what arm they in, what sites. That might be more of a question for a BIMO, for the inspection team, to figure out if there's a data quality signal resident with one site or one country or one investigator versus another. But really, if you're trying to do safety, reviewers, clinical reviewers, they're focused on safety and efficacy, and not fraud or deep systemic issues within the data chain, right? So, what would you do with that information if you found out that all of the rows in your adverse event data set from this country had this issue? What are you going to do with that? I mean, I think if I were a reviewer, I'd put out an IR. I'd do an information request to the sponsor saying, hey, it looks like there's this issue. Can you fix it, or can you identify it? And then I'd get either a new data set and start all over again, or not, because sometimes information requests don't actually lead to any new or different information. So yes, that would be a next logical question for a reviewer to think, is this a signal? Is this a noise? Is this noise a signal, and is it localized? Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I'm just trying to see how it would impact downstream as well as from the data collection perspective, like either way, because SDTM is like the midway that you're trying to check. So
Yeah.
is it going to come from the collection as well as how they've been using this data? So either way, what kind of impact that you would, as a
Right.
reviewer, you would check through it?
So I'm going to just go off topic just a little bit with this exercise, and I just speak for ourselves in the Office of Computational Science in CEDAR, is that is another aspirational goal for us to someday be able to communicate outward or back to the sponsor or to the sponsor community in de-identified ways, trends that we see with issues in data quality. We're not there yet, and I'm sure there's a whole lot of legal hurdles to that, but that is an aspirational goal that we have, which would address a little bit more directly some of the impacts back upstream, because what do you do as a sponsor when you find out that all your clinics in this country are doing this thing, right? You guys got to mobilize or not, but at least it's on you now to decide what to do with it, instead of a reviewer to decide how to analyze it.
Thank
All right.
you.
You're welcome. Okay, so let's go, I think we're done here. Question? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, somewhat related to that question, I'm wondering, so in the first exercise, so as a reviewer, I might have decided, yes, the data are still fit for filing because the problems that I saw are kind of okay to accept. But downstream, I will still have these errors or these kind of inconsistencies in the data. So do I have a place where I can take notes or where I change the data, or, I mean, how do I deal with that I don't forget why I made these decisions or so? Because as a reviewer, I'm kind of forgetful.
Right, so downstream from the filing, downstream from the filing, there are constructs and tools in place for the review team to handle or transform their data to support analysis, and those things should ideally, there would be oh gosh, what's the word I'm looking for? Yes, there is a reconciliation and where we, blanking on the word, where we keep track of the changes that we make to the data.
Okay. Yeah.
Audit trail, thank you.
Yeah.
I knew it started with an A. So, and so we're trying to figure out better ways to do that as well, because these things move very fast, and I think what often happens is that they're moving so fast that because of the deadlines, that there isn't enough time to do these things. So we're trying to figure out how to do that better through automation as well.
Yeah.
And that goes as feedback back to the sponsor then as well at some point, that they learn, here you screwed up, but we kind of were able to fix it and to accept it?
I think that feedback is housed within the division, and within our office, we don't directly impact that kind of feedback. So back to my earlier comment, is we're trying to figure out ways to collectively and anonymously report out on that. More questions? Okay. This is good.
So back to the thing that you were actually asking about, which was the infarctions.
Yeah.
So there's 50 of those. There's 50 supplemental qualifiers. Supplemental qualifiers are a contrived construct, but
Yeah.
it's really a variable.
Yes.
And its values have a context.
Yes.
So as a reviewer, is there some place I can go to see those supplemental qualifiers in their context?
Yes.
I gotta say the answer is yes. 'Cause if it-
No, there is not. We're working on tools that will reliably, say, merge the supplemental qualifiers for each parent domain back onto the parent domain. But that's been really problematic because, frankly, you guys don't do it very well. You guys don't put things in a supplemental qualifier data set consistent enough that we can reliably merge them back onto a parent domain, pass them off to the reviewer to say, here's your data. This value, this infarction absolutely goes to this row in EG, and that's the interpretation for this row, for this, for this subject, and so on. I'm not saying you guys never get it right, but it is problematic enough that it's been very difficult to automate in such a way that a reviewer can push button. That's why we're trying other solutions to that are sort of outside of the scope of this presentation. But yeah, that's exactly, I mean, if I were a reviewer, I just would go because I've looked at enough data that my mind kind of automatically assembles it back, and I kind of know how to do that. But it's not push button yet.
Ouch.
Yeah, yeah. I would suggest that maybe you go to your SDRG, because you all are doing that, right? Everybody knows what I'm talking about? Awesome. So if you had to go look for something in, say, maybe a 50-page document versus a 700-page document, my advice to reviewers is to always go to the SDRG first. That allows me to pitch the SDRG because it's kind of my thing. And the other is, and then once you see that in the SDRG, you always have to reconcile, right? So there's 50 in the SDTM. Are there 50 in any tables, lists, and figures in the reports? Are there 50 in the Atom? Right? Or did they just all go away once it went to Atom? That's because that happens too. So if you were in a Jumpstart service and I were in the room, I'd say, let's look at the SDRG and see what they have to say about that, because you guys are doing a fantastic job of listing your supplemental variables in the SDRG. So that's been a pretty reliable source for Jumpstart analysts and for us in the office to get more informed about variables in supplemental domains. Okay, did that answer your question? Okay, great. Let's go. I think we're done with.
I got more questions. I'm a reviewer.
Oh, hi, Chris.
ODS helper. So I'm confused. You told me to go to my SDSG. I thought I was supposed to go to my
SDRG, Chris. Pay attention.
Sorry.
It's a PhUSE thing.
I can talk loud if it doesn't work. I thought I was supposed to go to my define.xml, or am I supposed to go look at my SDSP? And then why can't this data just be with my other data? Why is it on this thing? I'm really confused. Can you help me?
Yeah.
Is there another artifact I'm supposed to be looking at that I don't even know about yet?
I know the answer to that one, and that's no.
Okay, so it's only those four: the data, the SDRG, the define.xml, and the other thing.
You
maybe?
could start with, yeah, I get it, Chris. It's complicated and it's messy. And I didn't create the standard. Those of us in the agency or any regulatory agency didn't create the standard, and we don't own the standard. So we're inflicted with the same issues that you're highlighting right now, and it is painful. That's one of the reasons why we are trying to do a Jumpstart service.
You are so empathetic. That is awesome. Can you just sit at my desk all day and help me?
We do. We have been known to do that. But yeah, you're right. Chris brings up a very excellent point, is that there are differential locations for these things. I have a preference for the SDRG if I'm going to find it, because I've learned through time that that is a source of very high quality information if I'm just trying to answer a quick question. But yes, if you were going to make a decision on filing or not filing or safety or ultimately safety or efficacy or label, you'd really have to consider all of the data together, and that's very complex, and we can't speak for a division as they move towards that greater regulatory decision. Okay. Chris, are you satisfied? Okay. As long as we go out and play pool after then that'll be okay. All right, let's go back to the presentation we've had. This moves very fast. The refresh is very slow. All right. Next report. You guys really know you're a nerd if you know exactly what this title means without somebody having to describe it to you. But I think we all know what that means. So this is another report in our Core DF suite that deals with the fact that there are events going on, and adverse events kind of tend to be a big deal, but there are things happening after the latest disposition date for a subject that we can find in the DS or disposition domain. So we're comparing dates across two domains. Does this mean something bad is happening? No, there could be a perfectly rational explanation for this, but it is we've learned that it is often indicative of deeper data quality issues, and if we see a lot of things falling into this report, we really get we do a much deeper dive into the dates and the relatability across events and subjects across domains. So this is, we have 324 or 10.3% of our adverse events are happening outside of this window. 10.3, that's kind of if it were like, 1.1%, I'd think, okay, there's some clinic who just didn't get it exactly right and there's some other stuff going on. But 10.3 is enough that I think I want to investigate. So let's see what we think here. So the question, this subject was having a lot of problems. So if I looked deeper into it, I saw that a lot of those rows of subjects that were having that were it was really a lot of those rows were just one single subject. So they're having a lot of problems. What's their story, right? Were they at one of these problematic clinic sites, or was a compliance issue, is a data quality issue? And then I'd want to know what arm they were in, because if they're the major contributor to this signal/noise issue going on in the data, and maybe if they're in the control arm, maybe I'm not going to sweat a lot. Maybe I would, but maybe I won't. But if they aren't, I might want to find out a lot more about what's going on with them. So, does anybody have any questions about the report or about the data, or some keen insight that I failed to see on this? Any contribution?